Actually, give me a moment. Allergy meds. Anyway, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Jonathan. Oh, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for one off. Yeah, anyway. I did that thing again. The thing where I started writing something and it was fun and lighthearted, and then it became a little bit more sad and dark at the end. It really is an interesting premise to like a movie or a short book, and I will probably definitely use it later. But yeah, enjoy.
A Stroll Through the City by Jonathan Howe. Read to you by Jonathan Howe. You get to pilot a mech? That must be so cool. I hear this line all the time. It is, but I don't think it's the cool everyone expects. I always equated it to playing with Legos. People think I want to be the guy inside the robot, fighting the bad guys. I could care less. I just like building a really big thing for a bunch of small things to live in. That's why I got into construction mechs. No, I'm not a fighter mech, I tell them. I pilot a construction mech. Usually at this point, people's interest falls off. They realize I don't swing a giant sword, but instead cause traffic delays. Oh, that's neat, they always say. I can see the light in their eyes dim. Some try to make it a point of conversation, but most just move on to other more exciting topics. A few people will even ask if it's my goal to pilot a fighter mech. For the record, it's a lot harder to get certified as a construction mech pilot. They have tests involving fine control and motor skills, something combat pilots really don't need. Oh really? That's even better, Carly said. I started. No one reacted that way. I was in line at a coffee shop before work, making small talk with the person before me. Why do you say that? I asked. Well, everyone only thinks of mechs for the death and destruction they cause, she explained. But that isn't all humanity boils down to. I much prefer the construction side of mechs, which shape and build a better future. That's exactly it, I replied excitedly. You are literally the first person I haven't had to explain this to. That's sad, Carly said. In a city so shaped by construction mechs, people ignore how integral they are to our lives. Are you familiar with the Parsons Building? The more apt question would be, did you work on the Parsons Building? I said with a coy smile, to which the answer would be yes. Her jaw dropped and eyes went wide for a moment before she recovered in an even larger grin. You work for the Antilles firm? Xavier Antilles was my mentor for the first 3 years, I explained. She looked hard to see if I was lying. I'm telling the truth. If you really want to know, stop by the firm sometime and ask for Kelsey. If I'm not working, I can show you around. I went on for the rest of the day, thinking about the conversation. Carly seemed really excited, promising to come by, but I hadn't heard anything from the firm all day. Fortunately, I was working on a special project, a new tower being made for billionaires and their businesses in the heart of the city. I piloted around KTM-02, which stood for Kelsey's Titan mech. Despite not wanting to be the Lego guy in a mech, I still had a soft spot for the sets and named my mech in their manner. I guided KTM's massive fingers down to pick up the framework I needed to attach. The foreman called out instructions over the radio, leading myself and the ground crew to work together. While the construction mechs could do a lot of the heavy lifting, making construction work easier, it was still common practice to have a ground crew to do most of the fastening and minute details of construction. As if you had to let the Legos pull themselves together after putting them really close by. Also KP, the foreman called. KP literally stood for Kelsey Pilot. Look impressive. There's some woman who came from the Antilles with permission to watch your work. Some kind of reporter? A reporter, I thought? In a moment where I wasn't doing anything, I looked through KTM's cameras to the ground crew and the foreman. Standing among them, armed with a recording pad, stood Carly. She's a reporter? I radioed back. You know her? The foreman responded. Well, I met her today in a coffee shop. I invited her to come by Antilles, but I didn't know she was a reporter. You met Carly Mulligan in a coffee shop? Immediately after the foreman said her name, I realized my stupidity. Of course I knew Carly Mulligan. Everyone in old Seattle did. While she wasn't a worldwide celebrity, her reporting channel on YouTube highlighted some of the best parts of our city. Would it be bad to say I've never actually watched one of her videos? I said sheepishly. Kid, the foreman answered, you live your life however you want. You not having seen any of her videos got her an invitation to come report on our work. I'd say that's a good thing. For the rest of the hour, I worked nervously. Fortunately, the mechs had built-in safety features which made up for human error, because my nerves would have wrecked the entire structure. When it was over, I was about to turn and head for the docking port outside of town when the foreman radioed up. KP, before you head off, the reporter wants to talk to you. Use the tower to brace KTM-02. The entire way down the mech's service elevator, I jittered anxiously. When the door opened, Carly was there, smiling excited. Kelsey, this is so cool, she said before I could think. You're an integral part of the Tachyon Center's creation? It is pretty cool, I said, rubbing the back of my head. Would it be weird to say I'd never thought about it? From you, no, she replied. I went on your guys' website today, and based on everything it said there, this is pretty normal for you. How did you know? I said. This time my jaw was the one to drop. Having to explain that extremely intricate and amazing feats of modern architecture were standard life for me went over most people's heads. Hey, it makes sense. Someone who's worked on the Carlson Memorial has got to be used to incredible designs, she said, almost like reading my mind. Anyways, would it be alright if I asked you a few questions on camera for the channel? Absolutely. Just give me a second to freshen up, I told her. She held up a hand, stopping me in place. She pressed the recording button on her pad and pointed the camera at me. People always think of mech piloting as an easy job. Is that really the case? It could be, if you were a lazy mech pilot, I said to the camera. At the Antilles firm, I wasn't allowed inside a robot until I could pass Xavier's rigorous physical test. Whenever I am building, it's a full-body workout to keep the robot in line. I finished by gesturing to my sweat-covered pilot suit. She stopped the camera and nodded. Sorry about that. Yes, feel free. I just wanted some footage so people could understand better. That it's a hard job? Exactly. I freshened up in one of the quick sanitation stalls we had for post-job refreshment. When I came back out, Carly was doing a slow circle of KTM-02. Based on her stance, she was getting footage of the mech for her video. Quite impressive, isn't it? I said nonchalantly. She beamed. It is. What's KTM-02 stand for? Kelsey's Titan Mech number 2. It's your second? What happened to the first? Advancements in tech made that model obsolete. Have you heard of the OOW motor? She shook her head. Well, in the mech world, it made anything else useless. It's a mixture of fusion and fission in different stages, allowing for an almost lossless cycle of energy. Her eyes didn't glaze over, but she was definitely confused. Sorry, you lost me, she said apologetically. No, it's fine, I told her. Would you like to come inside and see it? Is that allowed? She asked nervously. I just assumed. Did Antilles give you a badge of some kind to be here? She pulled the yellow-lined guest badge out of her bag. Yep, that's high enough clearance. You can't film in there, and I would honestly prefer if you shut your devices off completely, if it's all the same to you. We rode the elevator up to the service access to the reactor chamber. I showed her inside to the radiation-proof diagnostic room. And you're sure we're safe here? She asked. Isn't nuclear power, well, nuclear? If we went any closer, yes, I answered. However, this room, as well as the rest of the mech, has special anti-radiation coating to keep pilots and workers safe. So it's radiation-proof? She asked. Mostly. I mean, if a nuclear bomb were to hit, we'd be safe, but the mech would no longer be suitable. Think of the protections as like a funnel. Enough water will still make the funnel overflow. I slowly explained the science of the new motor to her. With the visual before her, Carly picked up on it quickly. By the end of the lesson, she was finishing my statements. Her guesses were pretty spot on, too. Aren't you supposed to be a reporter? I bantered playfully. Not a nuclear scientist? Aren't you supposed to be a mech pilot? She replied. Hey, a good plane pilot still knows the workings of his vehicle. Yeah, but does a normal plane pilot know the exact sciences behind the engine that keeps his plane in the air? Carly rebutted. Touché. Want to come ride in the cockpit? While passengers were not common in construction mechs, there was a folding seat on the wall for such occasions. And you're sure you don't need anything else before we start going? I confirmed. Carly nodded, buckling up a series of straps. Am I allowed to film this portion? She asked. I thought for a moment. While the OOW motor was under wraps, the cockpit videos were more common. That should be fine. Just try to run the footage past me before posting anything. She nodded, pulling out and turning on her recording pad. When she was ready, I described the process of getting suited up. The equipment was made to mirror the movements of your body, meaning full-body sensor suits were required. Carly asked questions about the job the whole while, getting detailed information for her channel. And with that, I said as the reboot process finished, we're off. I carefully guided the mech to take a step in the designated foot space. I can't go anywhere within the city, but it's a pretty good route to get out. This is incredible, she said as we strolled through the city. We went by the Space Needle Museum on the way out, towering almost to the height of the original tower. Of course, the new needle was 3 times the size. It's such a unique way to see and experience the world, I told Carly. Sometimes when I'm walking around, I forget that I'm a tiny man piloting a large mech and not just a giant. You are such a unique individual, she said. And I mean that as a compliment. I mean, a man who isn't awed by the works of modern architecture, partially because he thinks he's a giant who puts them together for fun. That's not entirely. A blaring alarm cut me off. I scanned the screens quickly, searching for the problem. A radiation warning, I thought? I know the sensors are extremely perceptive, but they've never reacted. A massive collision shook the ground underneath the mech as a bright light flashed in our eyes. The mech's protective visors got to work on blocking the light. When my eyes recovered, I glanced around. Warnings of all kinds flashed red on my screens. Kelsey, Carly said, voice quivering. What was that? I think it was a nuclear missile. I fought to regain control of the mech's functions. When it finally let me in, I've opened the visors to a grim sight. The area of Old Seattle had been completely eradicated. I stood numb for a moment. Finally, when Carly's soft sobs broke through my trance, I turned the mech away to leave the city. The docking station is miles out, I explained. I'll go there. It will have proper anti-radiation bunkers and washes to keep us safe. I paused, seeing the ashen city stretched out before me. Don't look, Carly. Silently, we took a stroll through the ruined city.
Okay, we're back. So yeah, good time, great time, 10 out of 10. We are all super thrilled and pleased with my choices. Yeah, it is a little bit late, so I don't have my words, but no, I started writing it yesterday. I literally just looked at the robot mechs and I thought, you know, we always like have mechs about, ooh, this mech does fighting stuff with giant swords, and don't get me wrong, that's really cool. But also, like, bro, if we had a giant mech, it'd be so easy to build some large structures. One of my cats is attacking a toy. I don't know if we'll be able to hear that, but it's fine. But yeah, it would just be so interesting and useful to be able to build large structures with a massive creature that has motor skills. But like the hardest part would be making sure that you have those same fine motor skills. It would be a really intense job. So I wanted to show some of that through the character, but then also it kind of dawned on me that it would be an interesting thing for them to have been in like a serendipitous, not really a happy accident, but, you know, a fortunate position in which they survived because they were just touring the city. So really interesting. Let me know if I should make a part 2 of some kind, or I don't know if I'll make a part 2 as much as I'll make a follow-up like I've done for other things, where I just come back at some point in their story. My dreams have been kind of wild recently, so I am planning on making another Caves of Essence pretty soon here. Which one? Maybe it was Caverns of Essence. Either way. What exactly it will be, I don't know. We'll have to see. Again, my dreams are wild. But until then, I will see you next time. Anyway, neat. Okay, bye.